Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today I have an in-depth guide for Rampart, one that is definitely long overdue, but I hope I can do some justice and provide some new tips and tricks for you guys. Honestly, this one was pretty intimidating for me to really start because the gaming merchant also has such expertise in the legend and already has a lot of info out there, and I was unsure how effective my guide will be. So I hope I don't let down the community that is passionate about Rampart, and I hope I can do our girl some justice. I definitely got her heirloom. I spent a lot of additional time on Rampart as of late. She has a ton of fun, and she also feels like she's in such a much better spot than she ever has been. I personally still do not feel Rampart is overpowered at the time of making this video, and there's just a lot to discuss, so let's just start with her abilities. Her passive is the easiest to cover since it does the following for each of the LMGs. It actually surprises me. Most people don't understand how beneficial that this can be. The modded reloader actually increases the magazine size by 15% and decreases reload time by 25%. This applies to the L-Star, the Devotion, Rampage, Spitfire, and even Shiela. So when you hop on Shiela versus when she utilizes Shiela, there is still a difference. So some of those numbers statistically go up. Let's use the Spitfire since it's the easiest base, but the reload time goes from 8.67 seconds to 6.5. And then the mag size goes from 55 to 63. So I'm using that one, and I'm going to go in-game and just kind of show a quick example of it here too. Alright, in this portion, I just wanted to highlight the in-game example utilizing the Spitfire. When you shoot with the Spitfire, you see that the mag size did increase, and you see that faster reload. Even with the Rampage, when you're shooting, this stacks with the standard stock. So if I remove the stock here, let's drop that on the ground. A little bit slower. Okay, and now I wanted to highlight without the modded reloader. So if we hit reload, you see that reload is much slower. And I remove the standard stock on the Rampage. When you shoot, that reload takes an extended amount of time. I saw the modded reloader was on the bottom right when I was switching Legends, so I just wanted to make sure that I got this correct. Now in this portion, I want to highlight her amp covers and the benefit. So I really want to actually utilize it when you're having like height or even any sort of advantage. Always use her amp covers and always drop them down. Even when I was playing her on my live stream recently, I realized how little I was putting down her amp covers, and when I started playing her more, how beneficial it can be. So whenever you want to go for a, let's say, a wide peak, or you want to peak more in general, it's really good to put down an amp cover on a wall, just because it provides you that, one, the extra damage that you're going to get a boost from utilizing the amp cover, but also the fact that it provides cover for you. You can hold up to 3 charges with the ability and gain 1 charge every 20 seconds. So these come up a lot faster than you actually realize. And you can pick them up and get the charge right back. But if they're damaged, then you don't get the full charge back. So whenever I pull them back, you can see I get the full charge. But if they're super damaged, then you won't get the full charge back. So you can see that there, I didn't receive that back. That's really important to really highlight. These are pretty weak against grenades, as well as also melee as well, if you want to get these out of your way. It takes 3 seconds to fully deploy and has 45 health during that time. So the best time to really take out a Rampart shield is whenever they're first coming up. So if I were to shoot it right away and get rid of it, that's going to be the ideal time, especially if somebody's trying to use a Rampart wall to kind of wide peek you and get an angle, such as you might see here, just as an example. Then you're going to want to make sure to shoot out the Rampart wall right away. And remember, if she's got 3, she's going to keep trying to keep putting the pressure. And as a Rampart, you want to keep the pressure and keep putting down those walls. The thing about Rampart is you want to use her walls as aggressively as humanly possible. So whenever you play aggressively, I always mention this as Watson, is you want to push in and try to make as aggro of a play as possible. So what do I mean when I say that? So if you're trying to push, let's say, an angle or a house, just even getting up close and personal and utilizing that cover, let's use this as an example. I was making the mistake in the live stream, and this is where it really helps, especially when you're trying to bunker down in a building, because you can use it to block walls, and you can use it for many other things. So if I know there's a team over here, and I'm going for the peek, and I'm making my way in, and they're peeking, and you use the walls to make yourself some cover moving in, because one, you have the cover, they have to make a choice. That's the biggest thing when using Rampart, is you have to give them a choice. They can either focus and try to take down the wall before it becomes amp cover, or they can try to shoot you. And if you can use various geometry to your advantage to go for the peak, then it's really, really strong. It's just some of her pushing power is stopped. Just make sure to utilize your teammates, and you can also stop a team. So let's say if you're putting down the wall to make sure you have better cover, Or even if you're putting up different layers, you can definitely put up different layers. It's something that I slept on very heavily. No, this does not, from my knowledge, stack in terms of damage. So that's something to highlight. And it looks like there's a bit of a bug when you're shooting between the amp covers anyways. That does get them destroyed. But remember that even though it does get rid of them, and you do have that as a problem there, that the benefit is that you can jump over them. There you go, I got the super glide jump. I didn't think I was going to be able to get it in one recording, because it can be hard to time. You can do that with Shiela too, but the timing of climbing and getting a super glide jump or having various angles and cover, even if you only have one amp cover, you can still use this as cover to really fight your way out of a gunfight. And it causes whoever's pushing for them to kind of get caught up in it. So, you know, don't sleep on that. Use that as your advantage, especially in doorways, because it can have a lot of stopping power to stopping your enemy. So keep putting down amp covers, especially even when you're in arenas. There's a massive benefit to doing it. The more that you can utilize them, especially with how fast they come up, it does a whole lot of work. And remember the amount of HP that they have about 200, as you can see, once the amp cover is destroyed. Things that do kill the amp covers are arc stars, even caustic gas. The crypto drone also destroys them as well, which is really important to highlight. You can tell whenever the amp covers are in your favor whenever they are blue, and whenever they are orange, that means that you can destroy them whenever they're blue. Just remember where you're placing your amp covers, and I made this mistake pretty early on when playing, because the thing is that you can put down a lot of Rampart covers, but the downside is that once you place them and another team pushes in, that they're going to be used highly against you, especially if you're trying to run away. So be smart about them, and also be sure to pick them up, because if you leave them there, they're going to be beneficial. Let's say you drop from height and you go into a gunfight, they're going to work against you, and they're not going to be there to help you out the way you want them to be. Alright, and I think that pretty much covers most of Rampart's walls, per se. Just remember to keep dropping them down, because they do keep popping up. I can't give that tip enough, especially when you're pushing, because it pushes your enemy, and especially just a reminder on the walls that it does destroy the one right in front, so be very mindful of that. So I believe that covers everything. We're going to talk about Shiela next. If there's other comments that you guys all have, be sure to please leave you in the comment section down below. I know there's going to be a lot of Rampart experts. The beauty about Rampart is that she is very niche in terms of the people that play her, but her effectiveness and her power is really strong. In my opinion, is definitely slept on. She's the only one of the few legends that can create cover out of nothing, outside of, like, let's say Gibraltar, who just throws a shield down as a bubble dome. But it's essentially could be permanent until it's fully destroyed, which is a massive benefit, because it makes the enemy target have to choose between shooting you or the Rampart cover. But I think that covers everything. I'm just making sure, just looking over my notes. And yeah, let's talk about Shiela now. Let's talk about Shiela and the benefits that she brings to the table. Oh, last thing I just remembered that I want to add in as well here is make sure you can utilize the amp covers and put Shiela down. So I'm going to showcase that real quick. The biggest mistake that I see that happens here a lot, that most people get too comfortable with, especially with the audio with an Apex. Let's say you're on the amp cover. It's great because you have the cover here and it provides the extra HP and everything. But once this is gone, you're pretty much a sitting duck until you are able to pretty much, you know, move and get out. And that's really the scary part. I can't tell you how many Ramparts that I've gotten, you know, pretty much killed because of that. So I'm just highlighting that note because it's a mistake. Don't feel too protected by your amp cover, because this does go away relatively quickly, and if you're on Shiela, that you're going to be the main focus for everyone to take you out as fast as humanly possible. Just a very quick note. Alright, let's move on to Shiela. Now in this next portion, what I really want to highlight is talking about when you have Shiela. So when you have Shiela out, the biggest thing is that with Shiela is that it takes about 2 minutes to fully charge, and then once you place it down, it becomes stationary. So I'm going to place it down in just a moment, because when you place it down, you no longer can pick it up. That's one of the most important things. When she has Shiela, she actually has the larger mag of 173 bullets, which is really important to highlight. You can see that it does 14 damage at base, and then when we go for a headshot here, it does 28, which is a pretty impactful in terms of what she can do. The biggest thing I really want to highlight with Shiela is her mobility when using Shiela. You can still tap strafe. As of now in the game, so when I do a double tap strafe, let's get a good one in. There you go, you can double tap strafe around. You can still wall bounce as Shiela, and you can also redirect. You can tap strafe pretty sharp around a corner. You can slide up slide jump as well down. The movement speed is around 260, which is what Seer's mobility used to be at, which is important to highlight as well. You can do a slide jump. You can also do, I don't know if we can still try to get this live, but you can also do a super jump. I've gotten that before, and that's really important to highlight, especially around the amp covers, which is very, very important for when utilizing Shiela. You can also tap strafe. You can also use Horizon's tactical ability up. There's a lot of mobility, and you can even utilize the zip lines to super jump. So let me do a super jump here for you so you can see it. There's a super jump. You can also do that on Shiela, and even whenever you're going up, you can still even shoot and become accurate. Just remember whenever you bounce off of it that you're going to bounce off and then move. And you can pull Shiela and move her out consistently here. So you see how I'm taking her out, pulling her away, taking her out, putting her away. There used to be a bug where it would increase your melee animations. That's no longer in the game at the moment. They did hotfix that out. That's why I kind of waited as well to do this guide. The recoil's pretty, can be pretty intense, but it's not too bad once you just pull down a little bit. Then it's really not that bad at all. So just remember there's a lot of mobility that you can do with Shiela. She gives you that big bump, and then once you're out of ammo, use it around her amp covers to provide you that definite sway that you're looking for. Just as a reminder, when I was hitting these target dummies, that the headshots, they don't have helmets on. So even though that says 28, remember if you have a helmet that it does reduce damage from Shiela as well. So let's go and place it down just so you see the difference here. You see you have the little indicator. You can place this pretty much around anything, and it does stick to things that you're doing. So if I were to stick it right here, Shiela has about 350 health, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can correct me, but I'm almost positive that it's 350 HP, and you can operate it. And then notice that you just have infinite ammo with this, which is the best part about using Shiela. And if you use the full mag right after it goes away and disappears, there's a lot of spray from ADS, and then you pretty much reload it. It's got a great animation. Takes a long time to still reload and kind of get back in there, but it's infinite ammo. This Shiela pretty much disappears once you are, well, no longer using it. So that's kind of the biggest thing with using Shiela. You can also destroy it if you would like to destroy it yourself, but it does have a lot of health, and when you melee it, it does a lot more damage than compared to the 350 of just doing your regular gun damage to it. So that's also a little important note. So if you're trying to get rid of it, you can also press your keybind to remove it, or you can melee it for increased damage. The same thing happens to the amp covers, which I covered earlier in the video. So I think that kind of wraps up a lot of what, well, let's say like Shiela can do. She's got a lot of mobility. Just remember the ramp up time is a lot slower than even the Havoc. So when you have the Havoc and you're shooting compared to Shiela, I've talked about this in a prior video. The ramp up time is really what makes the breaks utilizing Shiela. If you cut around the corner, somebody can actually full DPS you down with the R99 before you even get your initial shots. Just remember that ramp up time, and when you're holding an angle and shooting, if you stop, I see a lot of Ramparts do this consistently. Let's say you're coming around the corner with Shiela and you're trying to shoot somebody. The biggest mistake you can do is lower that ramp up time. It's better just to hold the pressure, because the minute you release the ramp up time, they can come around and do some peek shots at you. They'll do a peek and then wait for the ramp up time, do a peek, do a ramp up time. This is why I don't think Shiela can be used in a competitive setting. Most people know how to kind of abuse that, but try to use your mobility with Shiela to be as a benefit rather than a negative. So hopefully you guys found all this information and guide helpful. Also, little quick note, I don't think I mentioned it when I was talking about the modded reloader, is that the splatter rounds also stack with having the same effect on the reloader. So that's just a little tidbit towards the end there that hopefully can help you out and really improve. So hopefully you guys all found this video helpful. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.